Anthony Hartwig here with a YSN Hot Corner. We're back, season 2. And man, do we have a special return guest today, Morgan Howe. How are you doing? No pun intended.
I'm great. I'm great. How are you doing?
We're doing good. We're great to have you back.
I'm happy to be back. Round 2.
Let's do it. Okay. So when we last talked to you, you were getting ready for that Athletes Unlimited season. And it was at the stage where we didn't really know what to expect from that. It was the first year it was going on. Man, did you show up for that Athletes Unlimited season? Talk about that experience, what it was like, and some of the things you took away from that great summer.
There's a lot. There's a lot that happened in that season. Obviously, the softball was super exciting and super fun. Got to play with and against a lot of people that I just met. Never had the chance to do that before. Just met a lot of great humans. And then on top of it, got to, get to know a lot of these people aside from softball. It wasn't just softball, it was a lot of character stuff too. So that was really exciting. I think it was a very growthful experience for me in terms of life. I got to connect with a lot of people on a personal level. Athletes Unlimited is really great in that sense. I mean, there was the softball, but they also did a really good job of getting the girls together in our bubble and create and make that time for us to really bond and talk about, life things and learn from each other. So that's what I did. A lot of through Athletes Unlimited was growing on the life side of things rather than also just the softball. But yeah, that experience in itself was just all around incredible. So
I felt like the softball world really needed that to work because it was a time with like MPF and Scrap and all that happened, and they just needed something to go right for softball with the COVID and everything. So when you were there and you got the season off the ground from your perspective and seeing all the girls be able to kind of relax and play softball for a chance, what do you think that meant for everyone who was there?
For the sport of softball, sorry.
Yeah, for the sport of softball.
I think Athletes Unlimited really took the game to a different level. The amount of feedback that I got when I came home from girls just in my community, I mean, they were super happy about being able to watch softball on TV. I think that it gave softball kind of, I don't want to say a name, but it kind of put softball in front of people's faces, because of COVID. No one really has anything going on, and there's not a lot of sports being played on TV and stuff. So, I mean, people were kind of forced to watch softball and then ended up really enjoying it, I think, at least feedback that I got. But it was just really cool. It was really cool for the game to be exposed in that manner in a different setting and a different style. And the fact that it's all, athlete driven and athlete written, like, I think it's really cool that, just not that softball was put back on the map, but this new form of playing the sport, if that makes sense. So, my dad just came home, but I think that's the most common feedback that I got from Athletes Unlimited and what it meant for softball. So a lot of girls, I think, didn't realize that they could play softball professionally after college. And so that was a really good chance for them to see that as well, because the MPF, I mean, it's just not as broadcasted the way that Athletes Unlimited was. So the MPF was there, but a lot of people didn't know about it. So
you got to look around, and you were the outfielder, but you had to look around and see the space you were sharing with some of the outfielders in that league and the star power that was in those outfields. What did that feel like for you?
It was very humbling. It was very humbling for sure. I mean, there was a lot of big names out there, and it definitely wasn't intimidating. I think that some people might think that would have been intimidating, but I saw it as kind of like, holy, like, I get to learn so much, and I get to pick so many brains, so many great brains too. So, I mean, that was really exciting. I think that was probably like my favorite part, was kind of talking softball with some of the greatest to ever play, but also kind of like sharing similar I don't want to say philosophies, but yeah, philosophies, and kind of hearing them kind of think the way that I do. I'm like, oh, so this is right. Like I'm doing things right, you know. But it was humbling, but also very like growthful at the same time. So nothing to shy away from, but it was cool. The nerves were up every day for sure.
You said that you had to pick a lot of brains and really kind of tweak your game a little bit, pick up some new knowledge. What are some of your favorite conversations about softball that you had with these players, and things that maybe about the techniques and the intricacies of the game that you picked up from that time?
I think what was really cool was, I mean, you just have a lot of different people that play the game differently. I mean, you have people that are very like high rep, let's sit here until we figure it out kind of people. And then you have other people that were like, all right, I know when to stop. I will give it tomorrow and I'll figure it out tomorrow. So it was nice to kind of see both things work, like both methods work. I think the most rewarding piece or rewarding moment that happened for me specifically in a softball aspect was, I mean, it's been a while. It had been a while. So I was having a really hard time reading balls, like short angle balls. So like tweeners or big, what are they called? Texas leaguers. I think that's what some people call them. But just in between balls, like short balls that I'm potentially gonna have to dive for. Like I'm gonna have to take a really short and tight forward angle too. And I was working with Megan Wiggins on it. Gosh, I initially asked her about it like one of our first weeks there, and then we were on a team. It was, I think, week 3 when we were on the orange team together. I worked like all week with her on that specific ball, like just that specific short angle ball. And then I ended up making a play. I don't remember which game it was, but it was that weekend. And I made a diving play down the right field-ish line, like in that direction. But it was the ball that we had just worked on like all week. Like I had been picking her brain about it, and I think that was probably the most like rewarding softball moment that I had when I was there. Just in terms of the process and working through something and picking someone's brain about that specific thing, and then it ended up working out. And when I was like in the play in that moment, like the trigger words or like the things that I was thinking in my head were the things that Megan Wiggins was telling me literally 2 days ago. So that was probably one of my most like rewarding like softball moments in there, in that bubble when I was, you know, learning things and picking brains and things like that.
You get done with that season, but you're obviously not done playing softball. What did you do in the months after to kind of keep yourself in shape and to make sure that I know eventually the opportunity did present itself. We'll get there in a minute. But just to make sure if the opportunity did present itself for you to play it somewhere else or play the next season, that you were ready for that.
Yeah, so let's see. Right after AU, I drove back to Florida and was with Florida from October until, let's see, November. Well, the end of November, whenever Christmas break and Thanksgiving break happened is when I came back home. But I actually took some of that time off just to like let my body heal. I mean, I hadn't played softball in almost a year, I think a little over a year. And I just went 6 straight weeks of only softball. So I let my body recover a little bit right afterwards. I was I'm still finishing up, but I went back to school. I was a graduate manager at Florida for the rest of the fall, and then came home for Christmas break. And when I was here in San Diego during Christmas break, I actually started working out again with, well, not again, but I started working out with my friend Tyler, and he helped out at a facility down in El Cajon. So I was working out there. They were letting me hit there, letting me lift there. So kind of getting back into the routine. And then I came home went back to Florida after Christmas break, ended up coming home again in January for a family emergency. Spent January here. I continued to train at that facility down in El Cajon, and then went back to Florida to keep being a manager. And then this opportunity with Team Florida came about. So that's where we are now. But since then, since Christmas break started, I kind of on my own have just been getting back into like shape, lifting, hitting every day, just softball shape, just because like I know that I will be playing at the end of this year. So why not start now instead of, waiting months before. But yeah, that's what I have been doing.
Have you always been someone that could go and just work on your own like that? I mean, in Arizona State and in college, you have the training people and you have the coaches that can help you train. When did you transition into someone that could just say, I'm home, I'm going to go work out myself, I know what I need to work on, and that kind of thing?
Well, I would say from a softball perspective, I've always been that way. I mean, I will go, if I have access to a facility and I have a key to that facility, I will go at extremely odd hours just because. I mean, I really enjoy hitting off the tee. I love front tossing the machines too, but if I don't have anyone there with me, I'm perfectly content hitting off of the tee by myself for like hours on end. But I've always just been kind of wired that way. My dad used to tell me, don't let anyone outwork you, be the hardest working one. And that doesn't necessarily mean like I need to put in the most time, but I mean, the most quality time. So, I could spend an extra 5 minutes, but if it was a quality 5 minutes, then that's better than a half-assed hour. You know what I mean? But I think from a softball perspective, I've always been that way. I've always wanted to go put in extra work. I've always wanted to go take extra reps in the outfield, hit some more, hit extra, things like that. I will say from a strength and conditioning side, that is a place that I do struggle with. That's an area I do struggle with. Thankfully, when I was with Florida, the strength and conditioning coach for the softball team, his name is Sean. He was training me for a little bit. So like he'll write me up programs, and since I was been home, like he'll write me up programs too. And then same with my old strength and conditioning coach at ASU. I sometimes reach out to her and I'm like, hey, if you're not busy, like, can you write me up a workout? Her name is Bailey. And she's written me some workouts too. So I will say that part is a little bit difficult just because I don't know anything about the body. Like I don't know anything about muscle groups and things like that. So I'm not really sure what's going to benefit me and what's not. I mean, I could sit here and do all these bicep curls because I do have weak biceps, but is that necessarily what's needed for a softball player? Now I know it's not, but that is one area that I've struggled with, is just putting together a workout and kind of being told what to do makes me more inclined to go do it. It is hard though, kind of working out by yourself, because when you have teammates around you, like pushing you in weights and pushing you at conditioning, I mean, it's just not the same by yourself. But I will say the motivation is there to go do it. So it's not hard to go. It's just kind of hard sometimes to like actively do it, if that makes sense.
And now we get to talk about the opportunity that is in front of you now, and that is getting to play over in Spain. I'm sure you were very excited about it. You were a graduate assistant at Florida when this opportunity came to you, and you said it in the article with Softball America, I believe it was, that you hate backing out of commitments, but it was something that you could not pass up because the opportunities aren't exactly really readily available for softball players to go play outside of college. So what went into that decision making, and how excited are you now that you do get to go out and play in Spain?
It was a hard decision just for the commitment piece, because I mentioned it with Softball America, and I'm going to mention it again here, but I really don't like to quit on my commitments. I've never been that way. I always follow through with everything that I do. So that in itself was really hard to kind of pick and choose between. But at the end of the day, I mean, in my mind and in the way that I look at it, I don't want to say the chance, but the position of being a graduate manager is always going to be around. Maybe not available with that same program and with that same exact team, but a graduate assistant position is always somewhere a thing. And same with coaching. I mean, coaching is always going to be a thing. There's always going to be someone, there's always going to be a team that's going to be needed to coach. Whereas my time to actually play, the opportunity to like physically be the player is very limited. One, because the sport of softball is not that grown yet, but also as I get older, the more physically incapable I become. So, I mean, I couldn't say no. And then on top of it, I mean, a huge reason why I play is to grow the game, is to grow the sport. I really thrive off of getting feedback from people or getting messages from people, like loving watching me play, and in watching me play, their kids want to play, or in watching me play, girls are motivated to get out and go play softball. So that in itself, whether that's 5 people or 500 people that have that same feeling, I want to grow that and I want to share that, because if I can play a really tiny part in growing the sport of softball and making it super popular, so that when the youth now get up to where I am, like they have a real true professional setting where they can make a true honest living off of playing softball, I mean, that's what I want for them. It's not realistic for me right now and the times that we're in and where softball is, but if I can do that for generations to come and help play a part in that, I mean, that's what I want. There were people before me that busted their butts to just provide me the opportunities I have right now, which we're not going to settle for what it is right now. But this is great. I'm very thankful, and I just owe it to those before me and the game itself to continue to grow it and make it what it should be for those generations again. So,
what did it mean to you that someone thought of you and reached out and said, "Hey, we need you. We want you to come to Spain, and we want you to come and play in this setting"? What did that mean to you?
I mean, I feel so special. I was reading the comments that Jessie Warren had on the matter, and just seeing her say such nice and kind words about me, I was like, oh my gosh, like you, Jessie Warren, think I'm good at softball? And like, so just it's what's the like, I mean, it kind of made me blush because I was like, wow, like people think I'm good at softball, like good enough to go play in a freaking cup out in Spain, for a cup out in Spain. Like it's just, it was I mean, it just made me all like bashful, I didn't I don't know, it's just cool when like really great athletes think so highly of you. It's like, oh, me. But
I know with COVID, the opportunities to kind of work with the younger generation have been a little more limited than normal. But when you do get the opportunities to work with the young softball players, guide young softball players, how do you approach that? What kind of things do you like about it, and what attracts you to, being able to grow the game in that aspect?
I'm sorry, you're cutting out a little bit. Can you repeat that question?
No, I said, when you get the opportunities to help young softball players, and I know it's been limited because of COVID, not as much as, in a normal situation. What do you like so much about being able to bring up the young players and kind of being able to help them grow?
I think it's just, I think what I love so much about it is like giving them like a fun aspect. I think there's so much pressure to be great and to have all these numbers and to have this swing and to have this type of, it's just, they're so, it's all about like college and money and politics, I guess. So I want to make sure that kids are actually loving it and like having and developing a passion for it. I mean, when you're forced to do something that you don't really want to do, it's not fun. Or when you put so much pressure on yourself because if you don't have these numbers, if you don't look like this when you swing, if you don't, if you're not at this level at this age, then you're not going to get recruited. It's not fun, And I think that that's what I personally love most about working with kids, is to like kind of instill that, all right, let's just chill, let's have fun and enjoy softball for a second. the details are very important, but like you aren't driven to do any of that if you're not having fun, if you don't develop a love and like a passion for it. So I think that's what I love most about personally working with like the youth and working with kids, is just seeing them turn that page of, okay, this actually is fun, and like find that love and joy instead of like seeing them miserable and being kind of forced to play a sport that they don't even want to play. So I think that's what I enjoy most about working with kids personally.
Big topic on YSN the last couple of weeks has been multiple sport athletes and how much that means to growing them into college level athletes, and how many college coaches are starting to look for the athletes that do play multiple sports.
Mm-hmm.
Did you play multiple sports in the high school or even younger ages?
No, I tried, but it was not pretty. It was not a pretty situation. No. Dad tried to get me to play basketball. Not my sport. It was not no. I really did enjoy volleyball, but when I kind of got into it, I don't want to say like I was late to getting into it, but at the age that I got into it, like by then, the rotations, what all of the rules are, like kind of how the game goes. And I knew nothing. And I went straight into like a club team. So they weren't really willing to teach me everything. Like I don't think they understood that I didn't understand, but they also, their minds were somewhere else, that it was like, okay, we don't have time to teach you how to play. Like, just do it. And it's like, well, how does that make sense? I like couldn't fall in love with it because I wasn't having fun, because I was just being told what to do, and like I had no sense of why. Like, I believe you that this is what we got to do, but like if I got to start here, like why am I going to start here if I'm just going to run over there? That doesn't make any sense. It didn't make sense. But in soccer, when I was like really little, and that was just atrocious. I just sat on the bench and ate all the oranges. It was not that. Soccer was probably the worst one. Foot-eye coordination is not there. So speaking to like early specialization, I'm actually in a class right now in my master's program, and it's about like youth development and character development. And a big topic in our class is like, kids specializing in one sport early, or playing multiple when they're young. And honestly, like my stance on it, I don't think there's a right or wrong. I just think that a kid needs to be playing the sport and have fun in it. Like if they love multiple, then let them play multiple. But if they only love one, if they hate all the other ones, like they're just not having fun, then but they do love one, like I don't see the issue in specializing in one sport. I mean, personally, I tried other ones and I did not like any of them. So I enjoyed playing softball, so that's the only sport I played. But there's a lot of athletes that can play multiple and are really great at multiple because they simply love it, and great, good for them, but I don't think it necessarily makes you more or less athletic, or it makes you better or worse in one sport just because you know how to play other ones, if that makes sense. I think if you're an athlete and you're going to figure it out. But in terms of kids playing multiple sports or specializing in one, I think if they love all the ones that they're playing, great. If they only love one, then they don't force them to play something they don't want to play.
And I think that, listening to your story, you weren't playing, the hard thing with specialization, the kids that are playing it because there's so much pressure on them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to specialize in this sport because that'll get you a scholarship. You were just doing it because you tried the other sports and they weren't working out, and you were born to play softball, and that's just how it went. So it wasn't like you were playing softball because you were pressured into it, or you knew that, like, I got to play softball to get a scholarship. You were just playing it for the love of softball.
Exactly.
What kind of things, when you were kind of going through, trying other sports, as you said, not working out with other sports, when did you kind of make that decision, like, okay, this isn't working, I'm done trying these other sports, and I am going to put all my effort into softball, becoming the best softball player I can be?
I think my freshman year of high school, because I think it was when I was in 7th grade that I tried basketball, and it was 8th grade when I tried volleyball. And I was supposed to go to like freshman volleyball tryouts right before high school. But I told my dad, I was like, I don't want to play volleyball. I don't understand it. And I want to be great at everything that I do. It's not that it wasn't fun. I really did enjoy volleyball, but like no one would explain anything to me. So I wasn't going to get extremely frustrated for no reason. I'm not going to, if no one's willing to help me figure this out, I mean, why do I want to play? So I told him, I was like, I'm not playing volleyball. I'm sorry, but I'm not doing it. And I think that he was okay with it because of all the work that I do put into softball. Because prior to that, I mean, I was, again, always hitting on my own. I'd go up to the facility at really odd hours, like, especially when I got my license my junior year. I would go up to the facility at like 11 o'clock at night with my group of friends. And my parents, I mean, I could have been a, what are they called? What is the word I'm looking for? A delinquent, for all my parents. No, I could have been a delinquent and like running rampant, but I was actually, at 11 o'clock at night on a Wednesday at the facility hitting with my friends. Like we were throwing the ball around and hitting and just such a softball nerd. But I would say, to answer your question, my freshman year of high school is when I'm not gonna say gave up on other sports, but I was like, all right, yeah, we're done trying other sports. It's just softball. I mean, it was always gonna be just softball, but like we're not gonna mess around anymore.
Now, college softball's back, and everyone's happy about it. It's been a long time. Gonna have you put your analyst hat on for a minute. I'm sure you've been watching college softball a lot. What would have been some teams that have stuck out to you and have caught your eye so far early in this season?
I mean, obviously my alma mater, ASU, standing out big time. I mean, the runs that they're putting up is just ridiculous. I loved being a part of that offense. So seeing them continue it and continue to just, I think right now they have like 5 or 6 hitters that are hitting over 400 in their lineup. Like it's ridiculous. So I'm really excited to see them entering pack play this week. I'm really excited to see this offense against the other pack offenses. Because I mean, ASU just knows how to put up runs. Coach Harder does a really good job over there. Coach Ford does a really good job. Like I know that process in and out, and so seeing it on the outside is just really cool to know what's going on behind the scenes. But so obviously I have to say my alma mater because 1, yeah, and 2, I mean, it's alma mater. Let's see, other teams that have stood out to me. I mean, obviously Oklahoma putting up ridiculous amounts of runs, but that's a year-to-year thing. I think some of the Mountain West teams kind of beating up on some of the Pac-12 teams have kind of stood out to me as well. Because I did play in the Mountain West, so I know what kind of chip everyone holds on their shoulders when you're in the Mountain West. And so to see them kind of walk away with quite a few pack wins, I think is really cool in the preseason. Let's see. I think SDSU has beaten a pack team, Fresno State, obviously, and I think Nevada, potentially. I think they took one from UW. But those teams have stood out. Obviously, Aaliyah Andrews
At LSU.
at LSU. Yeah, she unbelievable. That, I mean, I love seeing that on my timeline. But I've watched a couple of LSU's games, and I really like watching them play. I mean, they're a fun group to watch. Obviously, it's hard to say this because it's UCLA, but back to pack.
Right.
UCLA is always fun to watch. I am really excited to see Oregon this year because I think they have more of a staff. At least when I left in 2019, they didn't really have a pitching staff. They kind of rode, I think her name's Jordan Dale, right?
Jordan, yeah.
Something like that. They rode her
That
on
was the
my
year-
senior year.
That was the year they had
So
everyone transfer out,
the
right?
2020 season. Yeah. So that's why I'm really excited to see them this year, just because I think that they have more of a staff now. I mean, they were doing some damage, I think the start of 2020, but now that they're like into a groove and like have a whole season to play, I'm really excited to see the things that Oregon does too. So, but yeah, those are some teams that I think have stood out to me.
That Pac-12 is loaded, man. That Pac-12 is loaded.
I will sit here and I will debate between the Pac-12 and the SEC all day, because a lot of people like to think that the SEC is just a little bit better, but I really think the Pac-12 is slept on a little bit.
It's hard because I think SEC gets a lot of the ESPN, major attention, and the Pac-12 has their own network that not a lot of people over on the East Coast get. Like, I can't watch the Pac-12 games, so it's
unless
hard.
You go through a certain provider, yeah.
Right. It's hard to kind of scale them, but I'm right with you. I mean, you look at the depth of the Pac-12, and you're thinking, man, that's got to be a gauntlet to go through, and you went through it.
It was.
And then everyone, UCLA gets Rachel Garcia back. It's like, come on, she was gone for a year. She comes back,
Like, come on, like make this make sense. Like, make this fair. No, she's that's someone that I do wish I could play behind instead of against, But it is fun. It was fun to get a few ABs off her. So
is that the hardest pitcher you've gone up against in college?
I mean, off the top of my head, I definitely think she's top three. Top of my head, she's definitely top three. I mean, it's so deceptive. I don't know if it's going up sideways. I don't know. It's good. She's got some good stuff.
Hey, you got some good stuff too, Morgan. It was great to catch up with you again. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit back in the hot corner, and we definitely love catching up with you.
Thanks so much for having me. I missed y'all.